everyone, and welcome back to our channel. We are Millennial Mom. If you don't know who is who, I'm Millennial. This is Mom.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, I'm Mom or Kay from Millennial Mom, and today we're going to talk about Match Me Abroad Season 1, Episode 6, Bring Me a Ring. Before I get started with every video, please, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button, leave your comments, because you know what? I'd like to know what you think about these couples that's on the show as well. You know, it can't just be me giving the side eye. And also tell a friend to tell a friend about Match Me Abroad. All right, so let's get started. Hopefully you got to see the episode so you'll know what it is that I'm talking about for this evening. If not, thank you for watching the review. I appreciate it. Oh, and also hello to everyone on the replay. Thank you for joining. So let me start out first saying just another quick overview. Match Me Abroad is a series about people in America who have not had as much luck dating, look for matchmakers in other countries to help them, you know, find a potential lifelong mate. So at the top, we have the three of the people who went over at the very top, and at the very bottom are the matchmakers. Okay, so on tonight's show, we have Harold. So Harold is being set back up on a date, and his date's name is Michaela. Now, background on Harold, if you don't know, Harold is 41 from New Mexico. He's on the autism spectrum, but you know what? He has a great job, great career. He just feels that because he's been on the autism spectrum, it took him a little bit longer to kind of like blossom and open up. You know, he's a little behind the curve in a relationship. So again, he's on his date with Michaela because his first date with Therese didn't work out. Okay. So Michaela, when we see her, she looks like, just by aesthetics, is on the same level of Harold. Like, it seems like they will have many things in common. Michaela even describes herself as a nerd. Michaela is someone who Harold's looking forward to being with. Harold has specifically said that he wants someone tall and a blonde. And Michaela is tall and she's blonde, okay? So on paper, Harold says that Michaela is a good match. They like the same things, and he feels like he's more confident going into this date because he's got a new wardrobe now. Because see, before, Harold was wearing a lot of jeans with suspenders, a lot of like floral Hawaiian shirts, different little quirky things, because Harold has a quirky personality. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with wearing suspenders if you need them, and or flowered shirts if that's your thing, right? But Harold has a new wardrobe now. He's much more, you know, button-down t-shirts and button-down dress shirts and some polo shirts. So maybe it'll give him just like a different outlook, give him a little bit more of a zhuzh vibe, that he's more confident going into finding a date with or without a matchmaker. So when he sees Michaela, Harold, he is at a loss for words. He's really like, you know, doing one of those things like, yeah, my name is Harold. I mean, he is like doing the, like the angel has come out the clouds for Harold, right? So Michaela is like, oh, how are you doing? You know, trying to get him to open up. Harold is flustered, but again, that's part of his personality. But I really do think that possibly, just by my observation, that this could possibly be, if Harold doesn't become like pushy, because he gets like pushy vibes, that this could be if not a match, a long-term friendship. So Michaela says that she set up a date. Oh, by the way, Harold is in Prague. Because he said that's where he feels like his match would be, is in Prague. So that's what the matchmaker is as well. Michaela set up a date to go look at different industrial things, different, how should I say, things that are more scientific in Prague as a first date, you know? So, okay, I mean, whatever you find is fun, right? Whatever floats your boat. So, hey, their very first date was at they don't use anymore, like a water reclamation or old water treatment center. Okay, so Harold's like, oh, this is nice. Well, see, Harold's career is he's into like rocket scientist. If he's not a rocket scientist, he works in that particular area. So he's knows about all the ins and outs, the bells and whistles of the pipes and how things flow through them and the scientific part. So this is up Harold's alley too. Okay. So again, whatever floats your boat, whatever you find fun. So Harold is, he just, of course, enamored with Michaela, but he's also like, oh, okay, yeah. Like water goes through the pipes. And I'm thinking, right? I'm just like, But Michaela is also eating this up. She's very happy that she finds someone, or someone has been found for her, that is on the same page, because later on she goes on to say that a lot of guys in Prague aren't into like the scientific things and aren't into, like, she's into Star Trek and into like different scientific things of Star Trek and just that genre of movies and television shows. She, like I said, she considers herself a nerd. And you know what? I'm not going to call Harold a nerd, but he gives Harold gives those type of vibes when it comes to like the Star Trek, the scientific stuff, the different TV shows, just, whatever to keep them busy. They give they need to be busy all the time kind of deal. But they're going around on that water treatment activity. And then they go to another one. I'm not sure if it's like part of the same tour, but then they go on like an underground or underwater boat trip. Maybe that was also part of the water treatment thing. I was like, you know what? If it was me, I would have considered, I'm sure, even though it's not open anymore and it's just like tour based, but I don't know if I would have been comfortable with that, but I'm not on the date. But they're sitting there and it's dark and they're looking up at the different tunnels, and Harold goes, oh, a slug. She's like, what is it called? She speaks English, it's broken, but she speaks it. So she's saying, oh, and her language is like, I don't know. I don't want to say it wrong, but the pronunciation is almost similar. And then when Harold goes to put his arm around her, it's kind of funny. She notices it, let me say that again. She notices it that he's putting an arm around her, but she kind of leans over and looks up and Harold leans over and look up too, like, you're not getting away from me. I thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, he wasn't yes, you should take no for an answer, but she literally was leaning all the way to the left, and Harold leaned left too. It was like, oh, is that a spider? So I guess she just kind of settled into having his arm around her, right? And they just finished the rest of the tour. Now, after the tour, Harold, and her, they go, I guess there's a little bar or something where they could get a drink. And Harold gives her a drawing. And because on his first date, he gave the other lady a drawing, that's his thing. So instead of giving real roses or whatever, flowers, the drawing is something that they can have forever. So that's Harold's point. So as they're drinking wine, he's like, do you want to get something to eat? And Michaela's like, yeah, we'll get something a little bit sweet. So this was real random. Harold pulls out 2 suckers, lollipops, whatever, that looked like they were strawberry flavored because it was in shape of a strawberry, and hands it to her. And she's like, oh, nice. And see, when I'm thinking, she said something, you want a little bit something sweet. Okay, I wasn't thinking of a piece of candy. I was thinking maybe dessert we got the wine from. Do they have a dessert menu, right? But anyways, Harold excused himself, went to the restroom. When he came back, he suggested maybe they go back to his hotel because they can prepare a nice dinner at the restaurant. She's like, okay, yeah. So she was cool with that. But at the same time, I'm thinking, oh, I just thought you said you wanted something sweet. Okay. So maybe that is her sweet. Maybe, I don't know what she's thinking, but she had a change of heart since she got that piece of candy. So there we go. Like I said, this could be a potential, at least long-term friendship, possibly match for Harold if, he calms down a little bit and they talk a little bit more and see where it goes. So I guess we'll see a little bit more with that next week, and we'll talk about that when we get to the end of the video. All right, so next up we have Stanika. Stanika, remember last week, if you got a chance to see, went out with Salah and his family, kind of in a way, I guess, ruined the date for Stanika. It wasn't just Salah's attitude. I don't know, maybe was it his attitude or was his personality? His personality seemed like it was a little bit off. I couldn't really put my finger on it to describe it, but it just seemed like it was very, very rigid, right? What do you all think? Was it rigid, or what was going on? The family dynamic, the brother's dynamic was off. The brother wasn't here for it at all, but Salah, yeah, it just didn't seem like, excuse me, that energy was there at all from the beginning. Even if the family did come to say hello or give a question or two, the energy was simply off. So it's the next morning after that date, and Stanika is meeting with her matchmaker, Nina, to talk about how the date went with Salah. And of course, it was a disaster. Nina knows it was a disaster too. I mean, she was there for the beginning and of course, excused herself later on so that Stanika and Salah can get to know each other a little bit better. But, Nina was like, oh, really? Like, why do you say that? And Stanika was like, you know what? Don't play with me. You know what I'm saying? Don't play. Let me just cut to the chase. Listen, there was no chemistry. It wasn't even about the language barrier. It just was nothing there for me. Okay. And so Stanika said, well, you know what? When I first met Salah to, see what he was about and see if it was the right match for you, Nina said that he didn't come across with the same type of energy and vibe that he gave to you. But, people are different, when it comes to talking to someone about what they want on paper. Listen, we've seen this on other shows. Okay. So this show is definitely no different. Say what you really mean and then, go for it. If it's not your vibe, your match, then just say that and just be done with it. But anyways, Stanika said that Nina lost points in the fact of getting her a match. And, she wasn't even really sure if she wanted to continue on with other dates because her very first date that she had with Nordine seemed like they had the better connection and she was just really wanting to go out on a date with him. Now, side note, Nordine had a previous engagement after their first date. I think he's a tour guide or something in Morocco. So he had some things coming up, but he said he would be back. And he even asked Stanika to, hey, still be open and to our date because I want to, or more dates because I want to see you again, And Stanika was like, yeah, me too. And then Stanika said to Nina that while on her date with Salah, her and Nordine were texting. I was like, girl, I know you was checked out, but for real. So, but Stanika said that even though Nordine and her, they don't text like hot and heavy, like every 5 minutes or so is like text here, text there. She goes, that's what she likes, to give time for things to grow. It's not overbearing. But Nina said that she has another potential match and she doesn't want Stanika to put all her eggs in one basket. She said that about Stanika before with Nordine, but again, Stanika said that previously when we first met her, that she's never had an actual boyfriend before. So this would be her first time being having a boyfriend or going on dates, things of that nature. Now, I've seen some comments where some people were saying just by the way that she was acting and or reacting or just in general that maybe they didn't necessarily believe that. I don't know. It's kind of hard to believe too, but you have Harold who said he hasn't been out on one. So maybe Stanika technically hasn't either. I don't know. It's her story. So we got to stick with it and roll with whatever it is she has to say. So, but Nina said that Stanika should consider going out on this date just to see if there was someone else that maybe she would connect to. And, and also to see if Nordine is what really Stanika wants in a match. And I don't know. Stanika seems like she really wants to pursue Nordine, and I think that she should. But then again, she did come all the way to Morocco, did pay and hire a matchmaker for a date. And just because you had one bad apple, you should still continue to see what else is out there for you because Nordine might be the one, but just to see, you paid for it. So you might as well see why not until Nordine comes back, right? See what else is going on. All right. So next up we have Susan. Now, Susan is a piece of work in her own right. Okay. She even admits that she's very picky and it's hard for her to be with a man because of her past. So Susan's already been on 2 dates. Her first date when we first met Susan, he was so overbearing, overtalked Susan. Susan literally could not get a word in edgewise. Every time Susan would try to attempt to say something, it would be like, like double dutching trying to get in. I think I've said that before, but it's true. This man was like really self-centered. What someone would consider a narcissist, self-centered into himself, into his travel, his work, his job, his business, himself, his job, his business over and over and over again, and really didn't care what it is that you had to say because his was at least one up, one better, or whatever the case may be. So Juan goes to meet Susan to talk about her date with Carlos that we saw last week, the musician that's aspiring to be an actor. And Susan told us last week that, listen, she was, even though Carlos was younger, she isn't into someone who's younger. She wants someone who's more stable financially, career-wise, things like that, so they can travel just like she can. And, her particular age, her career, and everything else, she's able to do those things. She was willing to go on this date, but she wasn't ready to settle down with Carlos or build anything with him because a struggling actor, okay, that's cool when you're 20 something. That's what Susan said, right? And I happen to agree with that. But at 40, 50 plus, being seasoned, already have a career and yourself already stable to where you to go to the next level, nobody's trying to go backwards for that. And Susan wasn't here for that either. So I see what Susan was saying, but at the same time, I also see what Juan was saying, is that Susan does come across closed off. Susan, at some point, she breaks down in conversation. Again, she's another one. If this is not where you wanted to go as a potential long-term mate, I mean, she could possibly just, have the date and was towards the end, and be okay, thank you, and move on. But Susan, again, has RBF big time, and it shows. And people, in my opinion, that have RBF can't seem to turn that off. It's just part of who they are, that stone face, whatever, and how it perceives. Okay. So as Juan was talking to her about Carlos, he was saying, well, how do you think the date went? And Susan said, oh, I think it went fine. At the end of the night, we had to go because her dog that she carries everywhere, Calliope, had eaten all day. So she wanted to get back home. And I'm thinking, why would you be out all day without your dog eating, or even maybe having some water, because does that even make sense? Or else you shouldn't have took the dog. Anyways, Juan said that Carlos said that about the date that Susan comes across closed off, and wasn't really involved in the date in the conversation. So then Juan takes out a notebook with a paper. Clearly, this is what Susan asked for in a match, and he just read it off. He was like, so do you want someone, that is stable? Yes. Financially stable as well? Yes. Are you looking for someone who can travel? Yes. So he was saying that the men that he set her up with have those things. Well, technically, Carlos wasn't stable financially, but he's able to travel. I mean, he had maybe 2 out of 4, or maybe 3 out of 4 things. But the point was, he was trying to tell Susan that the things that she's looking for, he's giving her into potential mates, but she just doesn't seem like she's opening up for that. And so then Juan said something. He said, so, you told me that you didn't want to be like an old lady on a date. And Susan said, I was just kidding. Juan was looking like, I don't think that you were, because why else would you say it? Juan comes across as kind of like hard-nosed, kind of. And also, let me say that Juan is in the same similar peer group. I give Juan to be like late 40, maybe early 50s. Susan is in her early 50s as well. So I don't know. I just think that Susan, to me, she gives off like she wants the business type of relationship, the businessman, the executive, but she said that she's been burned in the past. She was in a toxic relationship. She said the person was a monster to her and she had a hard time readjusting after a relationship. And Juan is trying to tell her, like, okay, but you came to me, trust the process, and, be open to your matches, because your matches isn't your past. So Juan said that he'll have another match for her, but she needs to be vulnerable. And Susan said, okay, one more time, because, hey, that's what I pay you for. So I don't know. I don't know if Susan's date, or should I say that? Not date. I don't know if Susan and Juan are on the same page match goes, because it seems like it's kind of like I don't know. They're like pushing. They both have strong personalities, so it's like push and pull. And I don't know who is going to win out. But if Susan wants to trust in Juan, I guess you would just have to like sit back and wait and see. So that's that. All right, moving to, we have a new single this week, and our new single is Chad. All right, so Chad, his matchmaker is also Juan. So Chad is headed to Colombia, Chad's background says he is a Southern guy. He loves being outdoors and he loves his dogs. His favorite hobby is cutting grass, and he owns a big piece of land. He got 8 acres. His mom has 4 acres next to him on the side. And so, that's the family connection. Chad's dad unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and he was really close with his dad. So it seems like he's still, when he was talking about it, seemed like he was having a hard time processing the grief. So he said that his dad wouldn't want him to be depressed, to pick his boots up and keep moving forward. So that's what he's going to do. Now, Chad said something interesting. He said a few things interesting, but one of the things that I'm going to pull out first is when Chad said his favorite hobby is to cut grass, and not just cut grass, but having a straight line. I'm like, cutting grass is your favorite hobby? On those 8 acres, okay, I can see maybe for some people it might be relaxing, but your favorite hobby, so he doesn't do anything but hang out with the dogs, hang out with his mother next door. Nothing wrong hanging with your mom and the dogs, but cutting grass, though, that's the first thing that threw me for a loop. So I'm thinking, well, it's got to be something else with Chad around here. Now, Chad says that he is pretty stable. He's got a great job. He says that he has been engaged 3 times, and all 3 times he feels like it was being rushed. And so he didn't think that right now, well, during the time when he was going through some engagements, got broken up, he didn't feel like he was the right man, or maybe he felt like, I think honestly, just listening to Chad, I think his esteem took a hit. But Chad did say later that the reason why he broke up was he was cheated on. Regardless of how he was cheated on twice, that's how he was cheated on. And I don't think he's gotten over that. I think that time span was also during the time his dad passed on. And so he's just had a lot of things going on. And so when we see Chad talking to his mom, he's explaining to her about going over to Colombia. And the mom is worried, but she's also supportive. She said eventually she wants grandbabies. And Chad said, yeah, I really want you to have some too. And I really wish Dad could have been here to, experience this with me. But so that's the second thing with Chad about the OCD with the grass. His dad, he's still in the grieving process, still trying to get past that. And those broken engagements that took a hit with him too. I think, again, all this happened at the same time. But you know what? Also, with the mom being supportive, yet nervous that he's traveling by himself, because it also seemed like Chad he's giving off only child vibes. He doesn't mention any siblings. So it seems like he's really tight with his mom. He says that he's not well traveled. It doesn't seem like he's gone out of, I think he's from Louisiana, somewhere like that, somewhere in the South. He hasn't gone out of his own little city before, so he's not comfortable with that. Chad says that also the reason why he picked a matchmaker is because those failed engagements, so he doesn't feel like American women might be who he's supposed to be with. He said in the industry that he works, he's met a lot of Colombian women, and he likes their skin tone, he likes their dark hair, and he feels like, he's had a better friendship with them, and maybe, he can build with them, with someone that's from Colombia, because they value marriage, friendship, and love the same way he does. So, again, there's lots of things with Chad. It just is. He just, again, gives vibes that he's anxious, he's nervous, his esteem is taking a hit, and he's just looking to go to the next stage of his life with the marriage, the kids, and so on with someone. Although age-wise, he seemed like he's ready, he just doesn't seem, in my opinion, mentally, maybe emotionally, let me just say not mentally, emotionally, he just doesn't seem like he's ready. Now, the next time we see Juan talking to Chad on FaceTime, Juan is telling Chad, are you ready to come? Have you brushed up on your Spanish? Chad gave not a sentence. Chad gave a word or two. I think like maybe how you doing or something like that. He might know like 2 or 3 things, but Chad says, you know what? Spanish is hard for me because I can't roll my R's for the correct pronunciation. A lot of people can't roll their R's if they're not naturally Spanish speakers, or just, can't roll their R's for some reason with their tongue. I don't know. But he's ready to go to Colombia. Again, he seems like he's scared about the process because he doesn't know what to expect. But Juan says, you know what? Yes, you've been set up on a date, but your date is also going to pick you up from the airport. So when you get there, your date is automatically going to start. So Chad is like, what? So yeah, so that was fast. I don't think any of the other couples got picked up from the airport, but Chad, yeah. So Juan said in confessional to get Chad out of his way, and to break out their shyness, to start him right from the beginning, right from the get-go, that hopefully will help him open and blossom. So the next time we see Chad, not only is he packed up for the airport, Chad is in Colombia. I was like, now that's how you introduce somebody. You introduce them, they packed, and they're already there. So he stops in the bathroom in Colombia to freshen up. He said it was hot in the plane, so he doesn't want to smell, So when he comes out the airport, who do we see holding a sign that says, welcome, Chad? Her name is Maria. Chad sees her. He's like, how you doing? Chad is just staring at her. He is in awe, right? Chad says in confessional that Juan did a great job physically. She looks like a model, exactly what he's looking for. But, at the same time, he doesn't really know what to say because he's shy, introverted. Maria notice that Chad is shy too. And she was like, well, hopefully he can open up. Yeah, they get in the car to go to their date. I don't know, Chad, we're going to have to watch Chad to see if he can really get past himself, because Chad is not unattractive at all, okay? Maria said Chad reminds her of someone you see in the movies, like a cowboy. Technically, he does give cowboy vibes. He lives on those acres, and he likes to cut grass, and it does look like it's a farm, so she didn't seem like it was too far off from that. So they get in the car, they go to the restaurant. Well, on the way to the restaurant, Maria's asking him, so what is it that you like to do, for fun? Maria says she goes hang out with different restaurants with her mother. She likes to go watch movies. She also notices how introverted that Chad is. So when Maria asks, what does Chad like to do for fun? He mentions cutting that grass. I said, you couldn't come up with anything else, Chad? Like maybe cooking, or I don't know, going out to eat. But Chad says cutting this grass and going to dinner at the church with his mom. So I guess the look on Maria's face is like, we'll see. So, all right, everyone, that was the end of this episode. But next week, we're going to see Harold and Michaela continue on at the hotel eating dinner. So it looks like it's going pretty good. You see Harold saying, hey, can I hold your hand while they're eating? So this is the first for Harold asking to someone to hold their hand. But then Harold also asked, can we go up to the room? And I guess that's a cliffhanger. We'll have to wait and see what Michaela says. I'm thinking go up to the room for what? Okay, Harold being real forward. All right. And then we have a new single named Michelle. And this is Michelle right here, who is going to Prague to meet her match. Now, she has family ties originally from Prague, so that's not too far-fetched from her. Let me put her picture back up. Michelle it said that she plays the role of a Disney princess as well during the day, and she's going to tell her mother and her family that she's going to Prague for a match, and it doesn't seem like they're as supportive. They just seem really surprised, so we'll see her next week. Also, we have Mark returning. He's going on another date. I'm not sure it's a date with the young lady from last week, but he's going to be meeting the family, and he's sitting there with two brothers at the table. They ask him how old he is. He said he's 40 plus, and they're like, oh, you're old. So yeah, that was that on that with Mark. I'm sure that's going to sit well with him because Mark and Susan have similar personalities. And then Nathaly is going to go out on another date to see if she can get out of her comfort zone. And at this point, you know what? Maybe Nathaly and Chad, because they're so introverted, could possibly be a match. So I don't know. We'll have to see how her date goes next week. I hope that she can open up as well, because Nathaly really seemed like she wants to get away from her mother's thumb. So, all right, everyone. Thank you again so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, comment, and share. And until next week, everyone, live simply, be grateful.